for me personally, like since I landed in Uganda, I ain't never been broke, bro.
Eric Thimba is a faith-driven entrepreneur and co-founder of Mookh Africa, a digital platform powering ticketing and payments for major events across East Africa. Eric tells us how his parents once sold their house to fund his education in the US.
My parents ended up selling the house that they had and basically paid for me to go to college for like 1 year.
We hear a little bit about how Eric's life in the US unfolded.
So the next 3 years, I'm just working. I'm cutting lawns, I'm cleaning pools. In America, you work to survive.
After returning home at 28 with no job and no plan, he had to rebuild from scratch.
For me, the lowest point was coming back home. I was coming back when I was like in my late 20s. And at that point in time, all the friends that I had grown up with were making moves. And I was coming back like no job, no degree, just vibes.
He started Mookh while trying to figure out how to sell his own products online.
We were trying to build a platform to sell my product. It wasn't to sell products.
Mookh now powers payments across multiple African countries and has become the official ticketing platform for Blankets and Wine and the recent Chan tournament in Kenya and Uganda. Hey everybody, this is Barack from Financially Incorrect, and it is the holiday season. So the first thing I must say is from everybody at Financially Incorrect, happy holidays to you and your loved ones. I hope you have had a blessed year. We want to wish you a fantastic end of the year and a very prosperous new year. The bad news is we did not get to 100K, so we cannot have the biggest party in East Africa. The good news, however, is that we did get to about, by the time I'm recording this video, about 68K. So I must say thank you to the 18K people who were able to subscribe between when we did the last video to this one. But this video again is just a reminder, if you like our content, whether it is Uganda edition, whether it's the business edition, whether it's the regular Kenyan edition, please do subscribe, share it with a friend. Let's get this platform as big as possible. We are in the process of creating more community events. We've had a mixer, we have had a love and money event earlier in the year. 2026, we are looking to do bigger and better things. We have a newsletter that's going to come out as well. We want you to be part of the Financially Incorrect Club and to create more valuable stuff for you guys. So please do participate in all the stuff that we have, but most importantly, have a fantastic end of the year. Happy holidays from me and everybody at Financially Incorrect. Hey everybody, welcome back to Financially Incorrect Uganda edition. My name is Barack. I'm the host of the podcast, and I have another money story that I am bringing to you all the way from Tagore Living. This is the Airbnb that we have that have been so gracious to us to allow us to be able to record this podcast from. So the link is going to be in the description box. Please do check them out. I promise you, the aesthetic is fantastic. It's in a great location right near a mall, right near a bunch of restaurants. If you're looking to come to Uganda and just stay for a short while, this is the place to check out. So with me today, I have, well, I don't know if it's like a cheat episode because technically he's not Ugandan, but but he's living here now, so we'll count it. So with me today, I have Eric Thimba, who is a faith-driven entrepreneur that has been building impactful tech-enabled products for the last 15 years. He's the founder of Mookh Africa, an African tech solutions that's building world-class digital solutions. They're the ticketing platform for Blankets and Wine. So if you have been to Blankets and Wine, whether I believe in Kenya or Uganda, you probably have interacted with them. So they have Mookh Pay among many other digital solutions. He also is the founder of the Adula Ministry. This is a community of believers in Jesus devoted to word and prayer, fellowship, and service. He deeply loves Africa and believes it's in its ability to develop its own solutions and challenges. Welcome to the Financially Incorrect podcast.
Well, go on, homie.
Yeah.
What's up?
It's good to, I don't know, like I said, it's a cheat episode, but you know what, like we'll take it.
Yes.
I've had the pleasure of interviewing your co-founder, George in Kenya. His was an interesting story. So I think I may inadvertently know a little bit of your, like a tiny bit of your story as well, but I'm really curious to find out, I guess, a little more about you and where all of this comes from and how you guys built Mookh. Based on the conversations that I've had, because I think now this is number 9 or 10, like there seems like there's a lot of opportunity.
Yes.
And like with the right catalyst, it seems like you can blow up really quickly. So even the person I was speaking to before we had this episode, Oscar, with his clothing company, I don't know, maybe I don't know enough fashion brands in Kenya, and that's possible. I may be ignorant to that fact. But what he seems to have been able to do by 25 it's incredible. And when I think about even how he talked about tools, because essentially he used the prom culture in Uganda, which seems to be a really big thing, to leverage his growth. And from there, because he started his company in high school, and from there, with that ready market, he was just able to like keep going. Because I kept asking him, like, what's the influx of cash, or what's the thing that happens in your business that has allowed you to really scale? And he just said, people just supported me. It was just the love from like the fellow Ugandans that allowed me to get here. And when I think about the different other spaces that people have talked about, there's another individual who is in the content creation space, and she has a game that she's developed and she's selling it. And I'm like, yeah, like it seems like, you know, with like the right catalyst in this space, it really would blow up immediately.
I think so. I mean, one of the things that I found with Uganda is just like, if you're innovative, it's so easy for you to, I mean, not say so easy, like, you know, anything you do is going to be difficult to some extent. But it's just a lot easier to just like, especially if you're like if you think differently, if you're more of an innovative thinker, there's just so many opportunities in Uganda to like make money. You know what I mean? Doesn't look like it, but there's a lot of like, there's so many gaps for innovation. And the thing that's different that I found in Uganda is that like, I don't know if it's because of the political culture or education, I don't know what it is, but you find that like, there's not a lot of like out of the box thinkers. So you find, at least for me, in my opinion, like some of the best workers that I've worked with are Ugandans. So they're really great workers. But like in terms of innovation, that's the place where like, so when you come with innovation, it's just a very welcoming environment towards like new ideas and just kind of problem solving. I mean, even for us, like at Mookh, I feel like my move to Uganda unlocked a lot of like opportunities for us as an organization. Things that I didn't expect. I thought it was gonna take some time for things to start to like pick up. But as soon as I landed here, like I had work before I had furniture. You get me? Like it was like I came on a Thursday and by Monday it was like I was busy, you know? And it's been like that since, you know, like for me personally, like since I landed in Uganda 3 years ago, like I ain't never been broke, bro. Like, I don't know what it is about the vibes here. Yeah. But ever since I landed in this country, like it's like, can I say the analogy that I use? To me, it felt like, you know how you're always in that place of anticipation. For example, like let's say you're waiting for a payment or there's always this kind of space of anticipation that you have. And to me, it feels like, you know, like when you open a tap and you can hear the water coming, but it's not coming out. Yeah, you know that sound.
Like, yeah, like the
you know, it sounds like something is coming. That to me felt like, that's how Nairobi always felt like. You know what I mean? Like it's like, money is coming. You know what I mean? You know? Yeah. And you're always just kind of in that space. But I feel like when I came to Uganda is when the water came out like, it hasn't stopped since. So it's been really great.
Okay. What's your origin story? Like, what's your money origin story?
What's a money origin story?
I guess it's just, I'm using the euphemism of origin story and just putting it to your money. And I'm like, what's you know how, like, what's the thing that begins your money pursuit? What's the thing that happens that begins your money pursuit? Or your understanding of money, whichever way you want to phrase it.
Man, I just feel like my relationship with money has been, I grew up in a very humble kind of household. We didn't have, I mean, we grew up like middle class. I don't know what that looks like in Kenya. It's like, you know what I mean? So I grew up in Gumo.
Okay.
So Gumo is like lower to middle class. I don't know. What do you think?
You know, I feel like there's a, and you know what? I don't know if I want to give this opinion because it may be controversial, but I'll say it anyway. I feel like there's a type of Kenyan who thinks they're the majority of the Kenyans, but they're really not the majority of the Kenyans. You know, when people give statistics like only 4% or is it 5% of Kenyans earn 100,000 or more in a month, you know, it means
that's crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a crazy thing to think about too.
Yeah.
That's like 0.001 and you're one of them.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So and so that means you're in the 5% or the 6%. So there's 94% of Kenyans who don't earn. So when you're thinking, so when you then begin to say, what is middle class?
Man, I love that take because to me it felt like we were broke. You get me?
Yeah.
But in many ways, there was a lot of privilege growing up in a space like that because I feel like in Gumo, like there were so many people who like, there were like guys who are like the lower end and then there were also like rich guys in the same hood, you know what I mean? So my origin story, I think for me is just coming from a family of like entrepreneurs. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. So I almost feel like it was like inevitable, you know, like I just was unemployable. You know, like I'd go into a space and as soon as I got in, I knew I was leaving. You know what I mean? Like mentally, I was always outside, you know? And I've always been, you know, a person who just from really young has always just kind of thought outside the box. Now, the thing is that like, you know, grew up in a humble background, but for some reason, and I'm not really sure why. I don't know if it's just a thing my parents did, but like, people always thought that I came from a wealthy family. I don't know if I give like rich kid vibes. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know if like, you know, nice schools. I don't know. Because to me, like any space that I've ever been in, like they always just thought that I came from like, and I don't know if it's just because, you know, my you know, the earliest memories I have is obviously, you know, humble background, but like my mom used to like, buy apples, you know what I mean? And you know, I'm 40. That's a crazy thing when you were younger. You know what I mean? Like apples were so like upper middle class. Right, you know what I mean? Right. She used to buy like Ceres juice, you know, every so often. So it's like we grew up humble, but like my parents also liked nice things. You know what I mean? My dad always liked nice things, so I've always had kind of like a taste for nice things. Now, the thing that's interesting about the question that you asked in terms of background, one of the things that's interesting right now, I'm actually like in the middle of seeing or engaging with a financial coach, a personal financial coach. And one of the reasons why I engaged her is because I feel, one of the things that you know, she makes you fill in like a form to just kind of understand where you're at. And one of the things I remember saying to her was, I feel like I grew up without like any kind of money philosophy or foundation. You know what I mean? Like things where it's just like, you know, my dad always taught me or my mom always taught me. Like I feel like in my family, like we never really talked about money, you know? So money was always this kind of like mystery to me growing up, you know? Like I never quite understood the science or essence around money. My dad was an incredibly generous man growing up, like to a fault. I mean, he would easily like give away our TV if, you know what I mean? Like if someone else, like he was just that guy. So I think the only kind of foundation around money that I have is around like generosity. But beyond that, like in terms of like investing, saving, all those things are things that I had to like learn on my own.
Okay. Yeah. Is so like even you saying that you picked up on generosity, was it inadvertent, or even when he gave you money, would he require you to be generous with it?
No, it was inadvertent. I think it was just from observation. And I think most times when kids, like you grow up, it's mostly from what you see. Because I think like even with my siblings, we're incredibly generous, just by default. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it's also just being generous, but also seeing that generosity from nothing. You know what I mean? Like it's not because we had a lot of money. Like my dad was generous with nothing. You know, so it just kind of stuck with me. So I'm really grateful for that. Like I feel like I'm glad that I learned that lesson. I'm glad that it's something that is part of like my DNA is being generous, and I'm just so grateful that, you know, God has given me many opportunities now to be generous.
As well. Looking back now, do you think your parents were good money managers?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Hey, man.
What makes you say that?
I mean, it's clear now. I mean, okay. So my parents had two different money personalities. My dad was a generous spender. You know, if he's got it, it's gone. You know what I mean? And my mom was a lot more cautious. Very kind of, you know, if you give my mom money, it'll last. You know, if you give my dad money, it's gone, you know. And having those two money personalities together, you know, is a recipe for like confusion. You know what I mean?
If nothing else.
If nothing else, you know what I mean? So I would, without a doubt, say like a lot of the money in, you know, I guess issues that I have come from that, come from an environment where it's just kind of like two different money personalities, and just kind of like you then now have to figure out, because I have a little bit of him and a little bit of her, you know what I mean? And now just kind of figuring out like, okay, what's my equilibrium around like money?
Yeah. Okay. So when do you start interacting with your own money? Like when do you, because you said the entrepreneurial spirit was always there. So because of your folks, when do you start interacting with your own money?
With my own money?
Yeah. Like when you make your first Kenya shillings?
I'd say like my first job, where I was, I worked at a cafe, and I was the cafe guy, you know what I mean? Selling the mandazis and the samosas. That was like my first gig. I think the guy was paying me 5 Gs a month, and that was like a lot of money for me.
This is 5 Gs Kenya shillings.
5,000 Kenya shillings, yeah. So that was like my first interaction with money. And I just didn't, I'll be honest with you, like I just didn't know what to do with money other than spend it, you know? I've always just kind of like, it's fascinating to me just how much money has moved through me, you know, over the years, and how much has stayed. It's just like, wow, embarrassing. But yeah, that was my first kind of like, my first thing with money, my first interaction with like making that money was just like, I made it, and I've always been like a spender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever in your life, make a deliberate pursuit for money? Whether it's in deciding your career path, whether it's in deciding whether it's entrepreneurship, is there a conscious direct pursuit of money?
I don't know if it's unfortunate, but like I'd have to say no. I've always been driven by like everything that I've ever done. It's always surprising to me how little I think about the money. Most of the times, the things that I've done over, you know, my life have always been like, yeah, I think this is a really cool thing to do, or it's like super impactful, and I see it. And the thing for me is, you know, I'm like a dog with a bone. Like once I see it, I can't unsee it, you know, and I have to do it, you know. And it's, you know, it's only like later in life where now I began to start, I have this thing that I call the effort reward ratio, right? So think of it like a graph, effort, reward, right? And so the way that I think about ideas now is, okay, how much effort does it require and what's the reward? Reward is different things. Reward can be, I believe in it strongly. Reward can be, it's gonna make you a lot of money. Reward can be anything. And effort is like, how much effort is it gonna require me to do this? So the reason why I had to come up with this is because I realized that there was a lot of ideas, and because I have so many ideas, I had to find a way to validate these ideas, and that was my effort reward ratio. So I realized that there was a lot of ideas that required a lot of effort, but the reward was low. I'm like, anything that falls within there, I'm like, out.
It's not worth doing.
Then there's things that are low effort, high reward, and you know, the sweet spot is always kind of the stuff that's in the middle. Like it's kind of like the effort and the reward kind of like match. But I learned that like much later. So in my early years, there's just a lot of stuff that, you know, I did that was just like cool, but it wasn't the reward, the effort versus the reward was quite like very skewed. So those are just lessons that I've just learned over time. You know?
So I guess moving on from, I guess at that point in high school or moving on after high school, so what do you begin to do to look for money? Like, what are the directions you take to try and get money?
So one, start working. So I started working from super, like, even when I was in college, I was working. I went to college in the US, started working, library, cafe, Starbucks, like started doing all these, like, I used to be like a gardener. I was like, as a landscaper, I was a pool cleaner. Man, I don't know if there's so many things that I've done for money, you know what I mean, other than sell my body. But like, that's in college, like it was just like anything that I could do, you know, just to.
How do you end up in the US? And this is given the context of the humble background.
Yes. So what happened is again, back to like poor financial decisions. I feel like my parents were sold into this like, and maybe this is part of the thing, right? It's like humble, but they surrounded themselves, like all their friends were ballers. Do you get what I mean? You get me? So it's kind of like they, you know, I don't know for what reason they thought that I should go to the US or where I don't know where that idea came from, but my parents ended up selling the house that they had and basically paid for me to go to college for like 1 year. So I had 1 year worth of schooling.
For 1 year?
Just for 1 year. And then after that, you gotta just like figure stuff out. That's back to the whole thing of like, I mean, if you think about that kind of plan, it's just like, I lived in a context where like hope was a strategy.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, there's this meme from the Uganda finance minister. Money is coming. That's the kind of context I grew up in. Money is coming. Don't worry, it's coming. So so that's how I ended up in the US. You know, I was there I actually never graduated, but I was there for quite a number of years. Did college for like 3 years. Then the money ran out.
So we know how you survived for the first year.
Yeah.
How do you survive for the next two?
Man, grinding, crazy. Like it was, had, you know, my sister sold some stuff, had my other sisters, like then ex-husband also helped out. Like there was just a lot of like money's coming, work, you know, a lot of, I got a couple of, what do you call them? Grants from the school. Like it was just like,
trying to piece things together. At that point,
well-wishers.
At that point, do you have any, maybe the word resentment may be a strong word, but do you have any negative feelings towards the situation that you're in as a result of the decisions your parents made?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think, especially when you're that age, like it's kind of, there is some resentment. Like I feel like in many ways, I had a lot of kind of like money disillusionment and a lot of fears. You know, I was always so afraid of like struggle. And so in essence, you're driven not more so by ambition, but a fear of going back or ending up in a situation where you lack. And man, I lived in that for a long time. And it was crippling, you know, crippling in the sense that like, you know, you're afraid to like make certain decisions. You're afraid to like, you know, pursue any types of, you know, even relationships, man. Like I had a huge problem with relationships because I was so afraid of like being broke, you know, of being a broke guy, you know. So, and I didn't realize that was a big motivator. And in many ways, what that does is that it keeps you in this kind of like, you know, I just don't think it's good to build anything out of fear, rather than purpose, you know. So I was driven by fear for a long time. Yeah.
What is the lowest point in those 2 years financially?
Which 2 years?
The 2 last years of, not 2 last years, but so there's year 1, you're covered. Then there's year 2 and year 3. What's the lowest point you hit in that year 2 and year 3?
Bruh,
do you remember?
You know, it's so crazy that you said lowest because it just felt like
like an average.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it felt like we were just low. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like lowest. We were just, that was our home, you know? Like, that was the SI unit, you know what I mean? Like, so I finally made a decision to come back home because I was just there like, man, like, it felt like the story of the prodigal son, where it's just like, why am I here with the pigs? When, you know, I have a home and a place where I can like sleep and be cool and everything. But even, you know, for me, the lowest point was coming back home, to be honest. Because I was coming back home, and by the time I was coming back home to Kenya, I was coming back when I was like in my late 20s. And at that point in time, all the friends that I had grown up with were making moves, they were doing stuff, they were working, and I was coming back like no job, no degree, just vibes.
So how long? so how long were you in the States for?
I was in the States for like 6-7 years. Yeah, because I went in 2000 and I went in 2000 right after the 9/11. So I went right after that, and I came back in 2009. 2008, I came back.
So what do you end up doing for the other 3 years? Because the first 3 years is like a pursuit of school, then that disconnects. So
yeah, so the next 3 years I'm just working. Like, I'm working at like different jobs. I had like 3 jobs. That's like the American dream.
Yeah.
Don't let nobody lie to you. Those homies be working like 3 jobs. I'm cutting lawns. I'm cleaning pools.
And what are you you're working for the sake of working? Like you're working to be able to stay in America.
Exactly. That's how it is in America. In America, you work to survive. You work to pay your bills. You work to like make sure that your lights are on, that you can make your car payments, that you can buy your groceries. That's why you're working that hard. It's not so that you can like build or invest in anything. And so for me, kind of in my core, being an entrepreneur, it's really difficult to like build stuff in America. You know what I mean? It's easier for you to just be a cog in the wheel, you know? And so those 3 years, I'm just kind of like grinding my life out, you know?
Right. What's the light bulb moment that, you know, I know you've talked about feeling like the prodigal son, like, why am I here? The pigs, I could go back home, I have a home. But what's the final thing that happens that triggers that thought in the first place?
So I always wanted to come back home. And I don't know where that came from. Like, I was never those guys. Like, I used to hang out with Kenyans in America, and none of them, they used to laugh at me. You want to go back? Like, why would you want to do that, you know? Because it's this idea of just the struggle back home. But like, I just never felt like I belonged there, you know what I mean? Like, and so it wasn't a financial decision. It was just kind of one of those things where I'm just like, I want to go home, you know? I want to be around my people. And I don't remember what was the reason that led me to make that decision. But I was just kind of like, I just want to go home, you know? I didn't have a plan, which is kind of how I've always been, you know? Like, just kind of like, this is what I'm sensing, let's go, you know? We'll figure it out up ahead, you know? So I just made the decision, and then I came back home,
Here's why you should choose FX Plus if you're in Uganda. Tight spreads and low commission. Competitive rates, free educational resources, 24/6 customer support. Oh, and did I mention fast deposits and withdrawals? Check the link in bio to register now.
Okay. Financially speaking, and this is, I guess, a very critical question in a vacuum almost. Considering the amount of money that must have been spent for you to even attempt to pursue education in the States, do you think it a bad investment to have been made?
Yes.
Completely.
Yeah, I think so. I think for my family's sake, I think it would have been better for me to like go to a local university. It would have been a better financial decision for my family to do that, and then spend those resources that were spent to go to America on other things. I think there was just a sense of like trying to keep up with the Joneses that didn't need to happen. And if that decision had to be made again, I would have advised my parents not to do that.
Forget it.
Yeah, forget about that. Yeah.
All right, so you come back now. Like you said, you have no job, you have no degree. Your peers are making moves as you're feeling. How do you what happens next?
Man, I have to say that was probably the lowest point in my life, because for about 2 years I was jobless. At some point, I stayed with my parents for a little bit. They went to stay with my sister for a little bit. And I was just lost, man. I was completely lost. Just down in the dumps. And, you know, I'm here, I'm about to, you know, I think at that point in time, like 2008, how old am I? Because I'm 43 now, 2005. So that's 2008 is how many years
10
ago?
years ago. No, 2008 is
15?
17 years ago.
17?
Yeah, we're in 2025. Yeah, 17 years ago.
No way, dude.
Yeah.
That is so crazy, bro. So what's 43 minus 17?
Yeah, so 43 minus 17 must be 20, honestly 26. Yeah, it should be 26.
26, yeah? So at this point in time, 2010, let's work with 2010, because 2010 is when I got my first job in Kenya. So that's like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So 15 years ago, that's 28.
28.
And I am at my lowest point at this point. Like, I have no sense of direction, no sense of like, what do I want? I have no degree, like I have no kind of sense of like, what am I supposed to be doing? So it was really like kind of like my lowest point. And I'll never forget, like, I think this was in 2010. So because I'm in just such a terrible state, you know, I feel like, you know, I turned to God, you know, and I'm just kind of like, yo, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I remember it was like a time where I decided to go on a 3-day fast. Because I was just there like, man, I need answers. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was like a dry fast. It was crazy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I'll never forget, like, that was one of few experiences in my life where I felt like God like literally spoke to me. And I'll never forget like how I was down in the dumps. I remember I was staying at my sister's place and God just spoke to me and told me that like, yo, Thimba, you're a leader, you know? And I remember why it was so important for me to hear that at that point. Because I'm at my lowest point. It's like someone is coming to tell you at your lowest point, you're great, you know, and you're a leader. And I remember God saying to me that he's going to use me to inspire others towards greatness in him. And I'll never forget that specific phrase, just exactly how I said it. And that was the beginning, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I had hit what I considered to be rock bottom. And the only thing that could happen now from that point on was just now to go up. So 2010, got my first gig, first job. My allowance for that first month, can you imagine, was still 5 Gs.
So where you had left?
Where I'd left, that's the same way I started, 5,000.
I have a question for you about the fast before you go down that road. So for starters, I would assume, like if I was your sister, I know that you're like down in the dumps and then you're not eating for 3 days. Like I would be concerned.
Yeah.
What was your family? How did she respond to you? Not because my immediate thought would be like, okay, like mentally, are you okay? Because now if you're not eating and
that's a good question, actually. I've never, that's a really interesting question. I've never actually asked my sisters how they perceived where I was at that time. Because I know they saw it, you know what I mean? I know they saw how much I was struggling. I've never actually asked them that question. That's a great thing. I'll make sure to find out from her. Like, what was she thinking when I was down in the dumps?
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but in terms of the fasting process, what's it like? And to fast for, that's now 70, 72 hours. Can you like summarize for me fasting for 72 hours on a dry fast? What does your body go through? What are you feeling, thinking?
Oh yeah, the first day is like not as hard as I thought it would be. The tough days are now day 2 and day 3, where now, I remember in day 2 I fainted.
You fainted?
Yeah. But I was by myself, so I didn't even know. I just remember I woke up and I was just there like, what am I doing on the floor? So that's when I realized I fainted. But like, it's one of the most mentally like, where it's like all you want is just like a drop of water. You know what I mean? And it brings a whole new perspective to like life, I think one of the things that fasting does is, one, it makes you realize how much we overrate food. Like food is fuel. It's not this thing that you like. You need it, but it's also like, you don't really need it.
It's really sustenance.
It's really sustenance, you know what I mean? So it was one of those like really like crazy experiences. And because, I think at that point in time, because of how difficult it was, it like positioned me to just like, your ears are tuned in, you know what I mean? Like your flesh is weak and your spirit is alive, you know? So that's why I think I was able to just kind of like hear God like speaking to me at that time. Yeah.
That's a very interesting phase. The flesh is weak and the spirit is alive. I think that's a almost euphoric way of being able to describe the fasting. Maybe that's why it works. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Be,
all right. So you get your first gig, you're being paid $5K. How do you, what are the steps you take to get to the point where you're co-founding this tech platform? Like what happens? If you're able to like summarize
I mean, just in summary, like the guy that I worked for was such a great guy and he believed in me, and that was the most amazing thing. And I very quickly like went up the ranks in his organization, mostly because of, you know, how I think. You know, I've always been an ideas person. There's a certain way that I think. And I don't know why I learned this, but like there's a way that it's like my mind just breaks down ideas, and I'm able to like take a very complex thought and break it down into like very simple ideas that we can execute. And that's just something that I don't know where I learned that, but it just comes very naturally to me. And so because within his organization, I almost in a sense became kind of like his muse, that he found someone who he could think with, you know, and so very quickly kind of, you know, went up his organization, and, you know, I was the guy who was presenting to all his clients. It was an agency, a research and marketing agency. And so I was the guy who was doing presentations, very charismatic, doing all these presentations. And that's when I learned, you know, the whole thing around being able to speak in front of people became like a thing. And so I kind of, in a sense, I would look at those years as the years that helped me build my confidence, you know, and just kind of get from a place of, you know, thinking of myself in a certain way, and now just kind of seeing what my capabilities were and learning what my capabilities were. And so during that period, like, you know, the entrepreneurial bug just kind of hit me, you know, and I had so many different ideas that I had. And my first business idea was to do what I used to call them, they were called heat patches for period pain for women. So I imported this product from China, got myself like my first investor. It was my friend's mom. And, you know, got like 3,000 pieces of these heat patches. And this was my first like venture into like entrepreneurship. I was stocking this product in Chandarana, Uchumi, Nakumat. So I had it in a couple of places. I was just about to put it into Tuskies. I was in like 25 chemists around Nairobi. And so that was my first like stint in entrepreneurship. And the thing that I realized during that time was, as this was around like 2013 and 2012, 2013, around there. And I was advertising my product on Facebook. And so I used to get a lot of queries on Facebook of people being like, yo, how can I get your product? And I'd always tell them to go to these chemists, or these are the locations. And I started to think to myself, I'm like, around this time was when Jumia had just started. So I went to Jumia because I was just kind of like, is there a way for people to just buy my products online? You know what I mean? Like, how can people, like, I want people to buy my products online. And I did my research. At the time, Jumia's business model was terrible, where they were taking up to 70% of your product price. So if you're the manufacturer, they take up to 70%. If you're whatever, they do up to 50%. That's insane. So I remember thinking about that and just being like, that's not tenable. So one of my random days where I'm out in the streets, I used to be that guy, literally, the guys you see in Tao with a briefcase and dusty shoes. That was me, in a suit, going to all these different chemists, giving them the product, trying to stock the product in their chemist, whatever. And so one of these days, I went to now my co-founder's house, Poji, and I sat with him, and I was just there like, bro, we need to figure out a way to sell my product online, right? And that's how Mookh started. So Mookh, we were trying to build a platform to sell my product. It wasn't to sell products. It was to sell my product.
Online.
And the problem is that at the time, there were ways in which you could list your product, but there weren't ways you could pay for your product using M-Pesa. And so our thinking was like, if there was a way in which we could merge some of these platforms that where you can do your listing of your product, and then we come with a payment integration. M-Pesa didn't have an API. The only way you could pay with a PIN was, they used to have a thing called Bonga PIN. So that was the only way that you could like use a PIN to like make a payment. I mean, it was a complete mess. So when we got into the space, it was like, it was me. In fact, the reason why we called it Mookh, I don't know if he told you this, but it was like Mookh is short for Mukwanja. Mukwanja is Sheng for money.
Yes.
And that's what we used to say to each other, yo, bro, you have some Mookh. So the reason why we called it Mookh is because we were trying to figure out how to make money from this product, right? So we were like, yo, bro, let's do this thing. Let's call it Mookh. You know what I mean? And I remember that day, I remember going on GoDaddy and Mook wasn't available. So I was like, let's add an H, and that was available. So Mookh, that's how Mookh was born. So Mookh, we were trying to figure out how to sell my product.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions. One, when you're finishing the entrepreneurship stint, not the entrepreneurship, the employment stint at the research and marketing firm, what's your payment like at that point in time? What's your salary? And then even for these heat patches, I mean, you're talking about being in major distribution places. Like, how did you get into Uchumi and all these big outlets? Because it's not simple to even get on the shelf, let alone people being able to purchase them. Right?
Yo, man, and let me tell you, fam, like, so first when I left my gig at that time, I think I was either getting paid, it's many years ago, so I was either getting paid 60 Gs or 80 Gs. I'm not sure which one it was. It was one of the two. Now getting into these spaces, bro, was just a grind, fam. Like, it was just me going up there and just being like, how do I enter this? They tell you, go talk to that guy. You go talk to that guy. You know what I mean? Like, it was just grinding. Like, I literally, that's why I'm telling you, like, I was literally that guy with a briefcase in town from morning to evening, just like hawking my product. That's it. Like, it was just a pure grind. Like, there wasn't like any connections that I had. I didn't really know anyone who could connect
How
me.
did you convince your mom's friend to even give you the money to import this? And how much was it to import all these?
Man, they tell you like first people to talk to is friends, family, and fools.
Yes.
Right? So I remember telling my friend about this idea that I had, and she went and told her mom, and the mom is a doctor. The mom was like, yeah, that sounds like a dope idea. I went, I pitched her, I gave her like a whole pitch, and she gave me the money to do it, So that's literally how it happened. Like, to me, it was like a miracle, bro. Like, I was like, oh my gosh. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Let me tell you, bro, I have so much respect for any person that does any type of business, man. Like, this is the hardest thing in the world to do, man, is to be an entrepreneur. It is the most difficult thing. So, hats off to any person that's like on that grind, you know? So I have so much respect for people who, that's why I very rarely, unless it's like a big corporate, I'll never go online and like criticize someone's business. I can't. Like, because I know how hard it is, you know what I mean? For you to like just build anything. So,
okay. That sort of makes sense. So when you guys now decide to build Mookh, I know again from what Georgie told us, at some point you guys are living in the same, to sort of cut costs and everything, you're living in the same house and you're also using it at the office, and money isn't really coming in the way that way that you thought it. But let me give you an opportunity to give your version of what that period was like.
Man, that's that period where it's just like, it's that, building in silence. You know what I mean? Where there's a lot of hype about what you're doing, but the money is not matching the hype. You know what I mean? And we just had to figure it out, And the thing that's so difficult is, at this point in time, we're like grown men. You know what I mean? Living together. Yeah. And we just had to find a way to like, make it work for what it is that we're doing. So we bootstrapped for so long, man. And for us to be able to just like have the impact that we did with so little, to me, like, what it's taught me is just how much you can do with so little. And I still hold to that like perspective.
When you say little, how much would you say you guys bootstrapped? How much would you say it took of your own money to put it together?
Oh, bro, we were like, it was like we were in table banking, like you were in any place, you know. And the reason, you know, what's interesting is how we ended up in events is not because we believed so much in the innovation that we can bring to the event industry. We remember we were trying to create a platform for selling products.
Yes.
The reason why we started doing ticketing was actually because of Muthoni, drama queen. We were seated at a dinner table and she was just there like, yo, this thing you guys are working on for products, can you make it sell tickets? We're like, I mean, it's kind of the same logic, so let's try and give it a shot. And she pushed us until we did it. But the reason why we stayed in the events business is because for you to, let's say, for example, do 5 million shillings worth of sales on an event, you can do that in 1 month, but to do 5 million shillings worth of sales for a product, probably a whole year. So the reason why we then focused more on events was because it's what allowed us to bootstrap. Because it had a, you know, lower effort, higher reward. And so we kind of focused in on that. And bruh, at some point this system that we were running, it was me, Poji, and one developer. So we were 3 of us. You know what I mean? Doing some of the biggest gigs, bruh. And, you know, from a front-facing perspective, guys are like, hey, you know, Mookh. Yeah. In the back, there's 3 guys, you know, holding the strings together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how we did it, man. Like it was just pure grit, grind, and I'll tell you one thing, man. And this is not, I don't say this as kind of like, you know, trying to evangelize or anything, but to be honest with you, man, I am always so fascinated when I meet other entrepreneurs, because and my key thing has always been like, how do you do business without God? Because I'm just there like, this thing is so hard, and there are so many pitfalls, and there are so many low moments. I'm like, you just encourage yourself. Like you're just raw dogging this like, you're just like, you wake up and you're just there like, I believe in myself. Because I mean, the amount of, you know, when you ask me like, how did you do it? I have no idea, bro. I have no idea how we survived so many moments that I genuinely believed were our last moments.
What's the story of one of the closest times you got to, like, when you're like, that last moment that you're talking about?
Oh yeah, that's crazy. Actually, I have a very crazy story, because it's like, this happened during, this was not the pandemic. So, you know, like for our business, like if the pandemic was a tsunami, we were at the beach. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? There were guys who come mainland. Us were at the beach, yeah. All right? And so we were the first industries to be hit. Like, I will never forget, it was March 13th, it was Friday the 13th, when Mutahi Kagwe came on TV and said, everything is shut down. I'll never forget it. Like it is Friday the 13th. And it was a complete windfall, man. Like immediately we were thrown into a spin. Like we went from being a ticketing company to being a refund company, you know, like where like we're processing, you know, all these refunds and everything. And it reached a point where we, you know, with the nature of the business at that point, you know, we were doing all the big events. So our entire infrastructure was built for scale. And so we were running a huge server. And so at some point, I think a month into the pandemic, you know, I think AWS shut down our system. And so for a month, we were off. And I remember this very specific day where, you know, at this point in time, I'm now starting to conceptualize the idea of, you know, we had a good run. It's time to start to think about what next. The system has been off. And so I have a meeting with these 2 guys, and it's my last effort to try and see if we can raise some capital to just turn on the system, you know. Meeting goes just fine, but there's nobody who's trying to sign you a check in COVID, 3 months. You know what I mean? Like we're in that period for where no one knows, is this 3 months or is this 3 years?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who knows? And so, man, I'm going home. I'll never forget, I'm in my car, I'm crying. And I'm just there like, this is it, you know? And I reach out to, I send a message to, I don't know if you know Reverend Kula.
I know of.
You know of him?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's pastor and he's also like a business guy. So I resonate with him in that way, in many ways, faith and business. And so I know there was a time in his life where, he had to walk away from one of his businesses and, it was like coming to, that whole, so I send him a paragraph just being like, bro, like, how did you, here we are, it's time to call it quits. How do I ration, how do I process this moment? This is my life's work. How do I process this moment? And I send him that message, just being like, man, like, okay, it's time for us to wrap up. Help me figure this out. 10 minutes after I sent that message, I get a phone call from one of the two guys that I met early in the day. And he's just there like, I like the stuff that you talked about. And then he says, there's something you said about a server, your servers being off. Why are they off? I was like, oh yeah, we don't have the money to pay for them. He's just like, okay, cool. He's like, how much do you need to pay for the servers? And I tell him, I think at that time it was like, I think $12,000 or $15,000, I don't remember. And he's just there like, okay, cool, all right. I'll send you that money tomorrow. And my guy, that was one of those moments where I was just there like, wow. I was like, that was like a miracle, man, for me, like, that was the first moment where I was just there like, oh wow, like, bro, we can't fail, bro. Like, we can't fail. There's no way. If this is like, so that was one of my moments where it's just like, I was sure, I was ready already mentally preparing myself to just kind of like
this is it.
Call it quits. But we've had many moments, but that's one of the ones that I remember.
Okay, let me ask you, up until this point, up until like that, first COVID year, have you met your financial goals? Have you meeting, are you happy about where your finances are?
Personally?
Yes, personally, yeah.
Okay.
Personally, like what's your headspace around your finances by the time you're getting into COVID year?
Getting into COVID?
Yeah.
Oh man, when getting into COVID, like I felt like my financial situation was like, again, it goes back to what I said in the very beginning, like where it's just kind of like, it's like I have no kind of perspective around that. I'm just kind of moving, you know what I mean? Like it's not even, you know what I mean? Because it's like, I'm here to like build. All I did was work, you know what I mean? Like the gift that COVID gave to me was it woke me up to realizing that Eric Thimba and Mookh are not the same person. Up until that point, everything that I was doing, I thought was so intertwined with my identity that like I was my business was me. And so even in terms of financially, like I didn't think about myself.
You thought about?
The only thing I ever thought about was my business. Post-COVID is where I feel like, you see, part of the reason for me having a financial coach now is because I realized that there's the business, then there's Eric Thimba. And those are not the same thing. Mookh is Mookh, and Eric Thimba is Eric Thimba. And this is now when I feel like I started to formulate goals for Eric Thimba, financial goals for him, and also beginning to now care about my own personal well-being, my mental health, how I'm working. I'm a big believer in rest. So like, unless I have to, I don't work on weekends. That's because I know the type of person that I am. I give it, you know? And so if I do not incorporate rest, I'll find myself just, burning out, being disillusioned and all those things. So I think for me, the big kind of like departure point for me was where before COVID, everything was kind of like murky. Post-COVID, I feel like I've now begun to separate myself as an individual and my business.
As a business. And I mean, that's interesting because if you're telling me you're 43 now, it means you had lived like 37, 38 years of your life, and while you'd been building Mookh, it was about Mookh. Like all that time it was about Mookh. It wasn't about you. You hadn't, like you were not really in the picture.
Yeah. And it's dangerous. And it's absolutely dangerous. And I think that's the gift that I love, like that I feel like God gave me through COVID, is because, there's so many of us who like, we're so immersed in the grind that we lose ourselves. And it's not even just in that, like it's in everything. You find people who, for us, we're having a money conversation, but you find that even in parenting, where you have kids, you lose yourself. You have this dream job, you lose yourself. You have this business, you lose yourself. You know what I mean? And it's like what we do naturally. I don't know, but I think for me, like being able to separate those two things has been one of the most rewarding things. And even in terms of like, it's also changed how I also perceive money, because now I look at money as not this, as a tool to enhance my life.
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah.
It's not an end all.
Yeah.
It's a tool for me to like do things that enrich my life. So whether it's through taking care of my loved ones, getting myself nice things, going traveling, like money is a facilitator of creating experiences like those. Money is also like I don't want to be that guy who is like, I have X amount of money in my bank account and that's all I do, like short of experiences. I have no, like, you know what I mean, memories and things like that. So for me, another thing that I see money as a tool to buy favor. So like, so I think for me, it's just like, to me, money is like, and I love that. Like, so I went away from this kind of relationship with money where I just want it. You know what I mean? Like, I just want it and I just want to look at it and I just want it there, to being like, money is a tool.
Yeah.
Money is a tool for me, like, for my life to be able to like buy favor, you know what I mean? Or to do stuff that like brings me like genuine joy and happiness and fulfillment.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I want us to move to the sort of this other side of where you come to Uganda. How is that decision made? What's the thinking around it? And more interestingly, I mean, you said, in Uganda, you have not been broke.
Yeah.
Just give us the context of all of that.
The context of all that. So before I came to Uganda, I was very restless. I moved to Uganda I remember it was in May of 2022. But I had started being restless from December 2021. Just restless. I thought the restlessness was like, okay, it's time to move out of I was staying in Kileleshwa. And I was just there like, maybe it's time for me to like move to a new place, some newness. I just felt like I was craving newness. And I just couldn't understand where that was coming from. And so there's this thing that I used to do. So our office was in Lavington. And the place where our office is, it has a really nice like walking track around it. And so I used to go for these, what I would call prayer walks, where I just kind of walk, exercise, and just kind of talk to God. And on one of these days when I'm walking, I'm just kind of walking, and this was a similar experience to the one that I had the 3 days when I was fasting, the one I told you about, where I vividly felt God saying to me, I want you to move to Kampala. And I remember just being like, because I wasn't thinking about Kampala. You know what I mean? I'd been to Kampala before, but it was never because I never looked at Kampala and thought I'd love to live there. In fact, I thought the opposite. I was any Kampala, anything that needed to be done in Kampala, Poji was one who'd come. You know what I mean? Me, I was just there like, oh, that's shags. You know, I'm just like, not trying to go to live in Nakuru, you know? And so quite honestly, you know, the reason why it was a divine like unction to come. So it was a real kind of step of faith. Like it wasn't like this kind of like very well thought out sound decision.
Or like a business strategy.
Strategy or whatever. I mean, the thing that was interesting though is before COVID happened, we had set up our business in Uganda. And there were some interesting business opportunities that we were exploring here. And as soon as we opened up, 8 months later, COVID happens. So I remember just thinking like, man, like that sucks. Like we spent all this money to register our business here and nothing happens, you know, like nothing. Like 8 months later, the thing is shut down.
Yeah.
What's so fascinating is that, you know, so this step of faith, and I'm just there like, you know what? And in my mind, I'm just kind of like, anyway, you know, we have a business there. I'm like, and I go talk to my family about it. And, you know, one of the things that I love is that my family tells me, they're like, yo, you know what, dude, like, it's not like you're moving to Sweden. Uganda is just here. Even if things go badly, you're one bus ride away, you know? And I was just like, you know what? So they really encouraged me. And I was just like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do it. You know, let's just go see. Let's see what happens. Bro, let me tell you the craziest thing. I landed in UG on a Thursday. It was a Thursday afternoon. I landed in Entebbe. I landed in Entebbe, and of course, the first thing that you do when moving to a new country, you get a SIM card, right? Because I want some data, So I go get a SIM card. I put my SIM into my phone. And as soon as I put my SIM in, get some data, my phone starts blowing up with all these messages, obviously, WhatsApp messages
yes.
that I'm getting. And in one of those WhatsApp messages is I get a WhatsApp message from a Ugandan client that we had like years back. And this client is like, hey guys, hope you guys are doing great. Quick question, are you guys by any chance set up in Uganda? We would really love to work with you guys on something here in Uganda. And that thing was mind-blowing to me. So I remember I texted Poji and I'm like, did you tell these guys that I'm moving to UG? So it turns out that's what I was telling you. I had work before I had furniture. Because the Thursday that I landed, I remember texting those guys back and being like, yo, that's interesting. I'm actually in Uganda. They were like, oh, that gig or that contract was like, everything changed after that. You know what I mean? Like it was like, from that point on, the tap was open. You know what I mean? And we've just had business opportunity after business opportunity since then. Here in UG, you know, we have a product that we launched called Powered by Mookh. And so what Powered by Mookh is that when we also build products for other people powered by us. So one of the things that we've done here in Uganda is we work with MTN. So MTN have launched a ticketing solution. About a year ago, they launched a ticketing solution in Uganda. And the technology behind that ticketing solution is us. So that started Powered by Mookh, you know what I mean? And these other products that we're now building out for them as well, in different other like categories and spaces. And so there's just been so many interesting like business opportunities. And for some reason, for me, ever since I got here, like the tap has been open, bro. I don't know, you know what I mean? So I thank God for it because it's just like, it's like, for some reason, it's like when I left Kenya, it's like something changed here. And there's something about Uganda, like there's an aura, there's an energy about here. People are really friendly. Like there's no gatekeeping here. So you find that like a lot of the business that we've gotten has been super organic. It's just someone who just thought like, I like your product and I'll give you business. You know what I mean? Like I feel like in Kenya, there's a lot of like gatekeeping, a lot of like haters who don't want to see you succeed. But here it's just been like so much goodwill, so much like, you know, good energy around like the work that we do. So a lot of opportunities have opened up for us by having our business here.
Okay. That's amazing to hear. And I guess as we are wrapping up, and this I do need to ask you, I'd be remiss if I didn't. I know you've talked about how the financial tap was open and you haven't been broke. Are you able to contextualize it for me? Like make it sort of almost make sense for me how the finances change, because I have the theory of it. Are you able to make it a bit more practical for me? Like what was your financial life in Kenya like, and vis-a-vis your financial life now?
I think it's just like, I think it's just the liquidity that changed. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like in Kenya, I was always this kind of like, on this like continuous grind, And I don't know if like psychologically, even just changing of currencies. You get what I mean? You know what I mean? Like now it's like...
Now it's in the millions.
Now I'm in the millions. You get what I mean? I'm a millionaire, bro. You get what I mean? Like, I feel like there's something around that. Like, I just feel like there was something about being in a new environment, being in a space where you feel this sense of possibility. And because of that change in energy, I feel like it also just made me in a space where I was attracting opportunities, And I just feel like it's like when you are where God wants you to be, it's like things just start to flow, you know what I mean? And so I feel like what happened was, what was the difference is that I just feel like I tapped into flow. When I came to Uganda. Like I tapped into, that's why for me that's why that analogy of water, it felt like water, because it felt like I tapped into a flow where opportunities, like goodness and mercy was following me. You get what I mean? Like, it's like I couldn't hide, bro. Like any spaces I'd go to, opportunities would open up. Even not just in terms of even for Mookh, but in terms of even for me personally, you're being called for things where they want to pay you for it, you know what I mean? Like, so I can't, so for me, like, why it's so difficult for me to detach this from my faith is because it felt like obeying God opened up everything for me. You know what I mean? Like just that step of just being like, you know what, let me just go see. Let me go see what this is all about. And that step has yielded, it's like put me in a certain aura that it's like the opportunities just find me, you know, and I love it for me, to be honest.
I bet you do. All right. So as we wrap up, last question, where's your money right now? Where have you put your money? Where do you invest? What's your budget like? How do you deal with money on a, I guess, monthly basis, assuming you pay yourself or you're paid every month like most people in the world?
Yeah. So I invest in a lot of, so one, I save, but where I save, I've invested my savings in unit trusts. So have own mutual unit trust, have a unit trust with a couple of other organizations. I'm also in a SACCO. I've also invested in some government bonds. And so that's for me personally. And a lot of also my investment has just gone into just like innovating, building out like new products, new ideas, new things. So like, for example, right now I'm currently working on a line of leather products. I'm collaborating with an organization here to do some, I'm calling it the CEO collection. So it's a collection of travel accessories for people who travel.
Right.
So it's just like, you know, leather sling bag. I should have come with one, man. What a missed opportunity. I have samples. But you know, just different, like, so for me, like one of the things that in as much as I've invested, you know, kind of the savings and investing, but one of the things that I know right now, especially at being 43, is that I have a window of being able to just kind of like execute ideas. Over the years, I've built up not just resources in terms of money, but resources in terms of favor, you know, in terms of like connections and knowing people. And I utilize those things to start new things, to start new ideas. So I consider myself like Right now, I'm currently in a phase that was coined by Muthoni drama queen, many fingers, one fist. So I'm doing Mookh. I'm in ministry. I'm also engaged in a couple of ventures that I'm currently working on right now. And all these things are just in terms of just being able to just live like a purposeful life. I think because over the last couple of years, God has been so faithful in providing resources for me that like I'm now, my mind is really more geared towards not necessarily a figure, but in terms of just being able to do everything that I can with the energy that I have to just like build out like innovative products and doing like really cool stuff before, the curtain closes, So
yeah. I hear you. I think that's a fantastic way to wrap up. I mean, just to giving your context and where you're at. And let me say thank you. Thank you for coming to Financially Incorrect.
Absolutely, man.
I know we kept you for a little bit, but thank you so much for coming and sharing your money story and more about context of moving from Kenya to here and how Uganda seems to be the land of opportunity at the moment.
Yes. Stay in Kenya though, don't come. You wait first. Wait for us to finish the money.
And then you
We'll repatriate for you guys some money to Kenya. You just leave us.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for watching this Financially Incorrect Uganda edition. We will see you guys in the next 2 weeks on the next episode.